Hello, good afternoon to all the listeners. Today we will discuss on the applications of a new technology which is coming out called the hyperspectral satellite data, particularly in the context of the its applications in the forestry and ecology department. We are well aware of the potential of the multispectral data. The hyperspectral data it is coming up in a big way. Probably in future we will have the satellites which will provide us a better spectral resolution data. So before we go into the details of this thing, let me start with few definitions. Let us try to understand what is meant by the hyperspectral. If you remember, in multispectral we used to have, let us say, 5, 10 or up to 15 bands which were discrete in nature, not in the continuous manner. But in the hyperspectral remote sensing data, we will have the very narrow bands, and that too in very large numbers. And the number can go anything. Currently, we have around 250 plus spectral bands in some of the sensors like Hyperion 1, and people are using it for different purposes. The bandwidth can vary from 5 nanometer to 10 nanometer. That depends upon the sensor strength. So basically is that you have more number of bands where you are able to get the signature from different types of the object, which are distinguishable to us from a naked eye. But when the spectral signature gets averaged, it becomes difficult many times to separate out the species level. Let us say if you talk about the forests and the species mapping. So basically I will be discussing about how to use this technology for forestry and ecology applications. Let me also try to define you what is a forest. Is a very simple definition which I would like to say is the type of vegetation which is dominated by the trees. That means tree is the dominating plant in that area, and therefore whatever reflectance which we get from the optical remote sensing sensors is because from the canopy, that is the surface. In a broader sense, we can also say in forestry other vegetation like grasslands, pastures, scrub, and sometimes blanks within the grasslands or in the forest areas are also part of the forest, because you have the, if it is defined as a forested area, that means small gaps are also part of the management. Let me also tell you that what kind of diversity we have in our country. In the forest, if you see, there are 16 major groups. Champion and State in 1966 has surveyed most part of the country and tried to classify into 221 forest types, and therefore these are mostly based on the factors such as climatic factors, temperature, rainfall, humidity, edaphic factors or orographic factors. These are based on the field work, but remote sensing has certain limitations. We may not be able to have all the 221 forest types discerned, but yes, many of these forest types or dominant forest covers, they can be delineated using either multispectral or hyperspectral data. So we'll just see how it is going to be useful. If you just recollect, we have 4 biodiversity hotspots in our country, and with several warm spots and several around 10 biogeographical zones and 4 endemic centers with 26 microendemic centers in our country. Therefore, if we look into what the Esner said about the spectral signature of different biophysical parameters or biophysical features, it says the efficiency of imaging spectroscopy for forest research and monitoring rests in understanding the variance in spectral signature at different biophysical, taxonomic, community and ecosystem levels of organization. So there is a lot of complexity involved in this thing, and it is not like other features. Let us say if you have minerals, you have a rock, you have a soil, you don't get this much of variability. Now let us go into the from forest. Let us go into the forest is made of several plants which has several species. Let's try to understand what a species means, and because hyperspectral data has been used now to identify the species, particularly those are very important plants which are growing in different parts of the country in different ecosystems, to find out where are the potential locations or potential areas where it can be cultivated or grown. So species basically, if I say again in a very general term, is a population of organisms which can interbreed and produce, or let us say rear fertile progeny successfully. And if you look at it, there are if in this diagram, if you look at it, on the left side, on the upper yellow color, there are 2-3 species here, but color is same, but the species are different. If you look on the right side, on the upper, it is same species in different colors. That means the interspecific variability is so high that within a species you find lot of variability, and intraspecific variability is also very high. Intergeneric diversity is very high. Therefore, to say that we can identify all these species is a challenge. Similarly, look at the roses. This is basically it is one species, but the colors are different, and one may say that this is a different species, that is different species, but that is not the case. On the lower bottom right side, you see human beings are there. They are basically one species, but they come from different geographical locations of the different parts of the world, but basically they are one species. So here what I'm trying to emphasize, that we may have a lot of variability within a species. That is one part. That means each species has a very unique spectral signature that helps us in describing, or let us say in defining or mapping the species. But at the same time, within the species also, or within the forest ecosystem also, there is a lot of phenological variability. So that will also have some kind of a important role to play here and there where it comes into. Now let me also share with you that even though I gave you a very simple definition of a basically the species is based on several characters. They may be structural parameters, like you may have something like to with the anatomy, or you may have something to do with the morphological characters, like leaves, colors, arrangement, number, structure, or sepals, petals, number, or ovaries or locules, whatever it may be. Even the surface of the leaf can be one of the criteria for making a species. But all these species are basically based on the very close observations. But if you look at the from remote sensing point of view, when you have an average spectra of a particular pixel, many of these plants which grow together in a certain area, in certain instantaneous field of view, probably we will not be able to differentiate them. Similarly, for based on anatomical characters, many species are defined, and therefore the genetic number, the chromosome number, or chemical characteristics of the species varies. Same species may have some different chemical characteristics. Let me also just share with you that there are different kinds of the factors which affect the reflectance of the vegetation, and because it depends on a lot of seasonality. That means appearance. Appearance, that means basically the physiognomy, phenology, species composition, species dominance, and the location of the forest. We may have similar kind of spectral signature or color, plants or forest type growing in Himalayas. You may have similar kind of more or less growing in the Kerala also, but the species could be different. Therefore, we have to very carefully select the signatures and then try to use all these parameters to classify them different. It can be a species level, it can be population level, it can be a communities level, or it can be a forest level. As I said earlier, there is a lot of a difference in the what we call the species level characteristics. Let us see, there are different kind of factors. Internal factors, let me also tell you, even though we talk about the species as one unit, but there could be variations in the structure of the leaves, age of the forest. The same species at different age can give you different kind of signature. When it is new, different, young, little different, old, mature, senescent stage, you will get different kind of reflectance. Therefore, the living beings are so dynamic, it is very difficult to say that okay, I can, using this spectra, I can identify this species. We will have to have the spectra of season wise, maybe fortnightly wise spectra of each species, and then used to apply for the mapping. Phenology, pigmentation, moisture content of the leaves, sun angle, geometry of the trees and branches and leaves is again very important, because that's where the reflectance goes back. It also depends upon the health of the leaf, depends upon the lot of nutrition nutrients which are present there. So the deficiency may cause certain kind of a leaf deficiency in the functioning, maybe photosynthetic rate comes down. This also it will be reflected when you take satellite data. Health, so this data can also be used for monitoring the disease or pest infestation or stress levels. And then of course there are a lot of ecological adaptations with people's the leaves have adopted, that can also play a very important role in defining the different species. Similarly, a lot of environmental factors which are very important, let us say atmospheric conditions, slope angle, spatial resolution of that area, spectral resolution, particularly number of channels, which is very important. That's where we are talking about the hyperspectral remote sensing, where we have very large number of bands. Similarly, radiometric resolution, the background, all the forests are not 100% canopy cover, but there will be a lot of gaps, and then that's where the background soil comes into picture, and which will certainly disturb the signature, and it will modify, and that may not be very useful. So there are now techniques available to remove all that. Similarly, there are other factors like microsite, local variability, substrate, and the climatic factors can also be very important. Let us see how the different types of the leaf shapes. On the left upper corner, you can see there are different types of the shapes of the leaves, and that means each leaf shape will have further variation, and the reflectance which goes from the leaves will vary depending upon this leaf size, leaf shape, and the anatomy of that leaf. Look on the right side, the canopy of the tree itself varies so much that when you take a spectral signature from top, you will get a lot of mixing from the soil. Therefore, it also becomes a little bit challenging to discern between the signature coming from the soil and signature coming from the top of the canopy. Shapes of the trees with the leaves could look different. That means in the growing season, you will have the trees with full of leaves. The spectral signature will be different, and the shape of the trees without leaf, you look on the right side, that means during the senescent season, which is started to see in dry deciduous forest, sometimes in the February, March, April, you will have the same tree looking in different physiognomically different, and therefore you will have some difficulty in mapping these forests. One of the most important biophysical parameters is the phenology, because the phenological characteristics are very important, and that's where we always go for that. If you have the correct season data identified or procured, that helps in the mapping of the forest species. If you look at the diagram on the three diagrams, if you look on the top side, the mixed dry deciduous forest on the wet season, that's the growing season, you have a different kinds of the tonal variation. When you see in the dry season, it is a gray in color, that means leaves have fallen. In the center, if you see the khair forest, in the dry season it is very nicely seen, but whereas in the wet season it is not so nicely seen. So you can differentiate this very nicely depending upon the phenological variables. This is just to tell you that how satellite remote sensing can help you to monitor large areas and the phenology, and that's where you can use it for discriminating not only the vegetation type and also the stress levels in different forest types. There are a lot of biophysical parameters, like the anatomical characteristics of the leaves are very different for grasses, for angiosperms, for the hydrophytes, and the conifera. So each one will have its own kind of this thing. Let us now come to the important application areas of hyperspectral remote sensing. Of course, the whole idea is that to understand what are the issues and what are the processes which are going on in the forest ecosystem. Broadly, we can categorize that we would like to understand the biogeochemical cycle, the biological productivity, because we are now talking about the carbon sequestration and the biomass assessments. Similarly, ecosystem processes, ecosystem services, and then of course we can also talk about the individual species conservation or niches which are found in very unique systems. So we can try to model these using very high resolution data. These are some of the application areas where people have tried to use hyperspectral data for, let us say, for LAI estimation, biomass and yield and density. Similarly, for chemical analysis, disease and stress assessment, nutrient moisture level, early warning, people have used it. Light use efficiency is one of the very important parameters for the carbon sequestration potential of different species in forest. Hyperspectral remote sensing has a lot of inputs there. Similarly, for net primary productivity, carbon sequestration rate, this rare, endangered, threatened species location, key species location and distribution people have tried to do. A lot of emphasis is also given on invasive species mapping and monitoring, where people have tried to use the hyperspectral remote sensing data. The information which is available at pixel level is assemblage of, let us say, an average of so many species or so many plants growing in that area, and that's where it is averaged out, and then becomes a little difficult. From this diagram you can understand, on the left side we have a MODIS data, on the right side we have the high resolution data, and within the 1 pixel of the MODIS you can see a lot of variability is there actually. And similarly, if you look the pixel, they are very complex. They could be mixed, unmixed, maybe linear combination, or maybe linear non-linear combination. Therefore it is very difficult to have this kind of separation. There are of course algorithms have been developed, but it is requires still validation. People also are working on the plant respiration rate, moisture stress levels, nutrient stress levels, monitoring and classification of vegetation, which is basically at the recovery level or natural regrowth, and also the gap in the vegetation, biodiversity conservation, and then canopy structure and the toxic substances. And therefore what we have done, we have tried to understand and use this hyperspectral remote sensing in certain areas. And let's say I'm giving you a case study of Doon Valley and other parts around here, and you can see this is how the tropical, subtropical and temperate vegetation is found in Doon Valley, and you have different kinds of species. Let us say in the tropical region we have sal and khair, subtropical we have cheel pine and begonia or rhododendron, and temperate region in Missouri we have different oaks, deodar, thuja, blue pine and rhododendron. So the species distribution in different forest types changes as per the climatic conditions. Now let us look at this data, which is Hyperion 1 image of the on the right side you can see the zoomed view of where we have used generated an FCC false color composite using band 81, 41 and 32, putting into RGB bands. So there were around 242 bands in this, which is a very large number, and this is becomes very useful to differentiate the vegetation type in forest. We need to do this lot of rectification, so we have to remove the quality has to be improved, and bad line drops have to be removed. And you can see how the spectra, which is the characteristic of each species, changes before and I mean not doing the atmosphere correction and after doing the atmosphere correction. So this is very important aspect in the hyperspectral remote sensing. You can look at that there are different forest types here. Let us say you can identify fire lines, sal forest, teak plantations. You can go to ground truth and do that. And let us say how the spectra looks. I have taken a few examples here, like the Soria robusta, Tectona grandis, bamboo, Dendrocalamus stricta, 2 species, and the let us say some coniferous plants, let's say Pinus roxburghii and Orochiria. The spectral signature, if you look on the right side, is different for each species. This unique spectral signature is the characteristic of each species, and that is what we are trying to harness and trying to use it. Now this is a vegetation classified map of Missouri area. You can see here. This is much better than if we had used the if you have used the multispectral data. We would not have found many species or compositions or communities mapped because of the spectral resolution. That is the one advantage which we get from the hyperspectral. So you can see in the detail map of we could identify Thuja orientalis, the species level Begonia, Variegata, Soria robusta, Acacia catechu, even Lantana camera, Quercus leucotrichophoria, Milotus philippensis, which is a second story species, also we have been able to characterize it. Similarly, Rhododendron, Arboreum is a scrub actually or shrub, which also can be identified. So you can just see here that there is a lot potential of hyperspectral remote sensing data where we can try to map the species level distribution in certain area. This is the same area of, let us say, Rishikesh area. Here we have tried to again find out like plants like jamun, like kanju, like khair, like hypomia. These plants normally you cannot map them using the multispectral data, which we have been able to map on the hyperspectral data. We can see, we will try to compare this Hyperion few 29 bands, Landsat image and the Hyperion, the different methods of like SVM and SAM, and you can see lot of changes will be there. And then there is accuracy access to. So if you use hyperspectral remote, so we got an accuracy of around 82.88%, whereas if you have used the Landsat TM data, we got around 69%. So there is a phenomenal jump in the accuracy of the mapping of different forest types. That's the advantage of. We have gone one step ahead. We have done the field work and tried to correlate the different indices which we get from the hyperspectral data, and we can prepare a biomass distribution map of a certain area, and we can say, okay, these pixels have these many tons of biomass, or then we can convert this into also into the carbon. A lot of emphasis is given for the fuller chemistry understanding of different forest type. Unfortunately, in our country, not much work is being done, but we are trying to do how to assess what is the nitrogen available on the canopy level nitrogen. So we have also tried to do the sampling, and based on we are able to modify the requirement and try to develop maps to show the how much of nitrogen carbon is present. That is one thing. And second thing, what is the geospatial variability of the nitrogen present in particular area. So this is a very important study, because nitrogen is a very important chemical in the geochemical cycle, and which also affects the concentration of lignin and also nitrification, and also the processes related to that which help in the decomposition of the debris or the this is a map which we have again used the hyperspectral data just to show that it is possible to understand or estimate the soil nitrogen in different areas, which may be forested area, maybe outside forested area. It is possible to correlate and do the of soil nitrogen assessment and distribution pattern. And earlier I mentioned that a lot of work is being done on the monitoring and mapping of the invasive species. So this is one study which is in US, which people have tried to monthly, that means within a month or 2 months is over a period when the new plant starts growing, you can monitor how the growth of the invasive species, or over the years how the growth of invasive species or the spread of the invasive species is happening in particular area. This we have also tried to do for the lantana camera and the let us say other species also. This is one area where we can use the remote sensing, particularly hyperspectral remote sensing data. There are a lot of work people have tried to do the assessment using foliar biomass, which from field as well as from the average data. Similarly, wood production also has found a very good correlation with the field observations data and the hyperspectral data. Let me also tell you that the future is that we will be using a lot of below canopy photographs to correlate with the information which we get from the satellite data for different forest types. So the density will change in different forest types, and based on the density, based on the whatever the gap fraction we are coming, how much of radiation is coming to the ground, that can also be assessed. So leaf area index, and then further into the productivity or carbon sequestration, this kind of hyperspectral data coupled with the images which we get, or the photographs, or the from which we get from the forest types, we can certainly try to use it in a much better way, and then we can, so this will have certain kind of edge over the other multispectral data, because of the very large number of narrow bands which are very characteristic for each species. And let us say for each species, within that species you will have dominant or co-dominant species. It is possible to characterize to a large extent the species level classification. However, let us try to understand that the spectral libraries which we are supposed to have for the entire in India, we have around 18,000 of the angiosperm species, and to have 18,000 species spectral signature which varies from each month to month, that means in December it will be different, January it is different, February it is different. So that means whole year we have to have the spectral signature, or a week wise spectral signature of all these species, which is a Herculean task. And if we do, then it will be very possible for us to do the spectral library utilization for the for quick mapping of the vegetation type or species, or rain engine plants, or keystone species, or whatever species there, it is possible to map it. With this, I thank you all of you.